the Exodus, a story of oppression, liberation, and divine intervention. A narrative etched into the very bedrock of Western civilization, yet often dismissed as myth. But what if the stones themselves cry out, bearing silent witness to a history far more tangible than mere legend? What if the dust of millennia holds undeniable proof of a people's struggle, their deliverance, and the miraculous birth of their leader? We stand on the precipice of revelation, where faith meets fact, and the echoes of antiquity demand to be heard. This is not just a story. It is an investigation into the very foundations of our shared human heritage, a quest to unearth the undeniable truths buried beneath the shifting sands of time. Our journey begins in the Fertile Crescent of ancient Egypt, a land shaped by the life-giving Nile, a region where empires rose and fell, leaving behind a legacy of monumental architecture and intricate hieroglyphic records. This vast theater of human drama encompasses the sprawling delta, a network of waterways vital for agriculture and trade, connecting the heartland of Egypt to the wider Levant. It is here, in this cradle of civilization, that biblical accounts find their geographical anchor, pointing us toward the fabled city of Pi-Ramesses, a metropolis whose very existence is now confirmed by modern archaeology at sites like Tel el-Dabba and Qantir. This ancient landscape, a crossroads of cultures and ideologies, provides the essential backdrop for one of history's most profound narratives, a visual transition into an automated 3D map sequence tracing the historical pathways of the Israelites from their sojourn in Egypt to their eventual exodus. To truly grasp the historical reality of this event, we must recalibrate our understanding of time. The biblical narrative of Moses unfolds during the New Kingdom of Egypt, a period of immense power and territorial expansion. Specifically, during the latter half of the 13th century BC, a time when the pharaohs commanded vast resources and influenced territories stretching far beyond Egypt's borders. Concurrently, across the ancient world, civilizations navigated their own complex trajectories. In Mesopotamia, the Neo-Assyrian Empire was beginning its ascendant rise, while in the Aegean, the Mycenaean civilization flourished, characterized by its sophisticated palaces and early forms of Greek script. Tracing the grand sweep of human history, we find the story of Moses positioned within a meticulously recorded lineage, starting from the foundational figures of Adam and Eve, progressing through the patriarch Abraham, whose covenant marked a pivotal moment for a chosen people, and continuing through the generations of Jacob and his descendants, culminating in the very individuals present at the birth and subsequent deliverance of Moses. This unbroken chronological thread extends forward through the centuries of Israelite nationhood, the reigns of kings, the prophecies of seers, all leading inexorably to the advent of Jesus Christ and the vast expanse of recorded history that followed, a testament to the enduring scope of this ancient narrative. The book of Exodus paints a stark picture of a people multiplying in the land of Goshen, their burgeoning numbers viewed with suspicion by a new Pharaoh who knew not Joseph. Fear mingled with resentment as the Israelites, once welcomed, became a perceived threat to Egyptian stability. In his terror, the Pharaoh issued a decree of unimaginable cruelty. Every newborn son born to the Hebrews was to be cast into the Nile. A mother's desperate love, however, is a force that defies tyrannical law. Concealing her son for 3 months, she then crafted a vessel of bulrushes, waterproofed with bitumen and pitch, and set her infant adrift in the very river designated for his demise. A prayer whispered into the reeds, a gamble against fate, a small ark carrying the future of a nation placed at the mercy of the current and the divine. It was on the banks of this very river, a place of both danger and divine providence, that the Princess of Egypt, bathed in the waters where so many others met their end, discovered the babe. Moved by his cries and the evident artistry of his vessel, she defied her father's edict. Taking the child into her own household, bestowing upon him the name Moses, a name derived from the Egyptian root for, to draw out. This moment, a confluence of royal power and humble desperation, set in motion a destiny that would reshape the ancient world. A narrative woven from the threads of oppression, courage, and an extraordinary rescue. Excavated ruins of Pi-Ramesses' modern Qantir, Tel el-Daba. Our first pillar of evidence directs us to the very heart of the biblical narrative's geographical setting. The sprawling capital city of Pi-Ramesses, commissioned by Pharaoh Ramesses II, and located in the fertile eastern Nile Delta. For decades, this ancient metropolis, known to archaeologists through the combined excavations at Tel el-Daba and Qantir, stood as a testament to the grandeur and historical presence of the New Kingdom pharaohs who ruled. During the time of Israel's enslavement, Tel el-Daba, in particular, has yielded a wealth of artifacts and architectural remains that align remarkably with the biblical description of the Israelites' presence in Egypt. Excavations there have uncovered extensive settlements dating back to the Hyksos period and continuing into the New Kingdom, revealing foreign populations living and working within Egypt's borders, a demographic reality that supports the idea of a sizable Hebrew population residing in the region of Goshen. The sheer scale of Pi-Ramesses, with its palaces, temples, and administrative buildings, speaks to the immense power and resourcefulness of the Egyptian state during this era, a state capable of commissioning vast labor projects and imposing its will upon subject populations. Scholars argue that the biblical account of a pharaoh who knew not Joseph suggests a change in dynasty or a period of political upheaval where earlier agreements with the Hebrews were forgotten or disregarded, a scenario entirely plausible within the complex political landscape of ancient Egypt. The biblical texts describe Goshen as a fertile region suitable for animal husbandry, a description consistent with the geography of the eastern Nile Delta, an area rich in pasture land and crisscrossed by waterways. Perfect for the semi-nomadic lifestyle attributed to the Israelites. Furthermore, the presence of foreign laborers and enslaved peoples within the Egyptian workforce during the New Kingdom is well documented through inscriptions and administrative papyri, providing a broader cultural context for the enslavement of the Israelites. The discovery of numerous granaries and storage facilities within the excavated ruins points to the agricultural wealth and administrative organization necessary to sustain such a large population center and its associated workforce, lending credence to the idea of a significant demographic presence in the region that could have included the burgeoning Israelite population. The sheer longevity of Egyptian civilization and its meticulous record-keeping means that while specific names and exact dates can be debated, the fundamental existence of powerful pharaohs, grand construction projects, and foreign labor populations is firmly established, creating a robust historical framework for the events described in Exodus. The location of Pi-Ramesses itself, situated in an area strategically important for controlling trade routes to the Levant, further underscores its significance as a major administrative and population center during the period in question. Wait, the evidence goes deeper. Baprius Leideni 348 recto. Our second point of investigation brings us to the realm of ancient textual corroboration. Specifically, a fascinating document known as Papyrus Leideni 348 recto. This administrative papyrus, penned in hieratic script, offers a crucial, albeit indirect, glimpse into the realities of labor and construction during the New Kingdom of Egypt, a period that historians generally align with the Israelite presence and enslavement described in Exodus. While Papyrus Leideni 348 recto does not explicitly mention the Israelites or Moses, it details the logistics of supplying provisions and workers for construction projects, providing a window into the organizational machinery of the Egyptian state at a time when monumental building was a national priority, often achieved through the extensive use of coerced labor. Minimalist and maximalist academics remain divided on the precise dating of this papyrus, with some placing it firmly within the Ramesside period, contemporary with the biblical Exodus narrative, while others suggest slightly earlier or later dates. However, its content consistently depicts the management of large workforces, the requisition of materials and the provisioning of laborers, practices that are entirely congruent with the biblical description of the Israelites being forced to construct cities and store cities for Pharaoh. The papyrus meticulously records the distribution of rations, including bread, beer, and other foodstuffs, to various work gangs, demonstrating a highly organized system for sustaining thousands of laborers engaged in arduous tasks. Mirroring the biblical account of the Israelites toiling under harsh conditions, some scholars suggest that the administrative language and the types of goods mentioned in papyrus, Leiden I 348 recto, offers subtle clues about the social hierarchy and the potential presence of foreign laborers within these workforces, as distinct provisioning methods might have been employed for different groups. The sheer scale implied by the documentation of supplies and manpower in this papyrus supports the biblical portrayal of massive construction efforts, such as the building of Pithom and Ramesses, which required immense logistical coordination and a substantial labor pool. This text serves as a vital piece of external evidence, illustrating that the biblical narrative did not occur in a vacuum, but within a historical and administrative context, where large-scale labor mobilization and resource management were fundamental aspects of pharaonic rule. The papyrus is evidence of state-sponsored labor organization, detailed record-keeping, and the provisioning of large numbers of workers provides a concrete archaeological parallel to the social and economic conditions described in the Book of Exodus, lending significant weight to its historical plausibility. If you're finding this deep dive into historical evidence compelling, please consider hitting the like button to show your support for factual investigations like this. Moudbrek with straw inclusions from Pi-Ramesses avarice. Our third and final line of forensic evidence takes us into the very fabric of construction itself, examining the humble yet revealing material of mud brick. Specifically, samples recovered from the ancient sites associated with Pi-Ramesses and its predecessor, Avaris. These recovered mud bricks, common building materials throughout ancient Egypt, are remarkable for their characteristic inclusions of chopped straw, a detail that resonates profoundly with specific biblical injunctions found in the Book of Exodus. The biblical text explicitly states that the Israelites were commanded by Pharaoh not only to make bricks, but to gather their own straw for the task, a decree that Pharaoh intended to make their labor even more burdensome, thus hindering their exponential growth. Archaeologists and material scientists have analyzed numerous mud brick samples from the New Kingdom period, and the presence of straw, a binding agent that helps prevent cracking as the bricks dry, is a standard feature. However, the biblical narrative adds a layer of specificity that aligns with forensic analysis. Scholars argue that the quality and type of straw used in mud bricks could potentially indicate regional variations or specific production methods. While direct forensic differentiation of Hebrew-sourced straw from Egyptian sources in ancient mud bricks is extraordinarily challenging and subject to ongoing debate among paleobotanists and archaeologists, the biblical mention of the Israelites having to gather their own straw is consistent with a regime seeking to maximize their labor output by removing even the most basic preparatory steps. Excavations at Tel el-Daba, which predates Pi-Ramesses, but was part of the same urban development, have yielded vast quantities of mud bricks, providing ample material for such analysis and confirming the widespread use of this construction technique during the relevant period. The biblical emphasis on the gathering of straw suggests a deliberate imposition of hardship, forcing the enslaved population to perform an additional laborious step in the brick-making process, a detail that, while difficult to prove definitively through material analysis alone, paints a vivid picture of the oppressive conditions. This forensic detail, the inclusion of straw, when viewed alongside the biblical narrative of the requirement to gather straw, forms a critical piece of corroborative evidence, suggesting that the text reflects a genuine understanding of the practicalities and brutal demands of Egyptian construction practices during the New Kingdom. It is this intersection of material science and ancient texts that provides a powerful, tangible link to the past, grounding the narrative in the very earth from which these ancient structures were raised. If you're committed to uncovering the factual basis of ancient narratives, Please subscribe to Faith and Facts for more in-depth investigations. The excavated ruins of Pi-Ramesses, the ancient papyri detailing logistical operations, and the very mud bricks bearing the telltale inclusion of straw. These are not mere fragments of the past, but distinct pillars of evidence supporting the historical reality of the Exodus narrative. The ruins of Pi-Ramesses firmly plant the story in a known Egyptian city and era. Papyrus Leiden. I-348 recto illuminates the administrative mechanisms of forced labor that would have been essential for such a massive undertaking. And the forensic detail of straw and mud bricks, coupled with the biblical account of its mandated gathering, speaks to the specific, brutal conditions of enslavement. While absolute certainty remains an elusive quarry in the study of antiquity, the convergence of these independent lines of evidence builds a compelling case for the historical reliability of the biblical account of Moses' birth and the initial stages of Israelite oppression. The story of Moses is more than a foundational myth. It is a testament to human resilience, divine providence, and a historical trajectory that continues to shape our world. Join us next time on Faith and Facts as we continue to explore the intersections of history and belief.